Hey everyone, and welcome to the long-awaited third episode of the Discover350 update series. My name is Sebastian, and we're really excited to finally bring you all a new episode showcasing a substantial amount of the progress we've made over the past year or so. We've made a ton of progress on both the 3D modeling and avionics since the last update. We want to start by thanking our community members for their patience as we work to develop this high-fidelity freeware aircraft. We'd also like to thank our team of volunteer developers and contributors that day in and day out contribute their free time to help bring this amazing aircraft to Microsoft Flight Simulator. Additionally, we want to thank our network of A350 mechanics and pilots that have assisted in providing us with images and information of the rearward aircraft and feedback on our progress. The A350 is a spectacular aircraft full of intricate ins and outs, and we're aiming to cover these ins and outs to create an enjoyable flying experience in the simulator. We apologize for the long delay in between these updates, but we've been focusing all of our time and energy onto development and making more progress rather than putting together another update video. But with all that aside, let's get to the update you've all been waiting for. Let's start with the 3D modeling side first. You might remember me from the last episode as one of the 3D artists on the team. I'm now the new lead 3D modeler, and I'm pleased to say that we've made great progress since the last update. We are starting off with a part of the aircraft you will be spending most of your time in, the cockpit. There have been significant reworks and additions, so let's get right into it. First of all, we have completed all parts necessary for operating the flight controls. This includes the tiller, which is used to control the nose landing gear steering of the aircraft, as well as the rudder pedals used for the rudder. Next up, our all-new side consoles featuring a microphone, a flashlight, which is placed several times around the cockpit, multiple storage areas and cup holders, the oxygen mask panel for the pilot, and even a built-in trash bin. Something quite interesting on the A350 is the built-in computer which runs the OIS, or Onboard Information System. And because the OIS can be used independently by each pilot, both sides of the cockpit have this computer. Moving towards the back of the cockpit, the A350 has a very asymmetrical layout. The left side, looking towards the nose of the plane, features a smaller jump seat with its own console, with oxygen mask, cup holders, and audio panel. And on this side we can also find fire-resistant gloves, a crowbar, and a fire extinguisher. Switching to the right side, we can see a much larger jump seat, which is very similar to the one of the pilots, except this one has different armrests and the headrest is also different. Here we once again have a console with cup holders, an oxygen mask, and even an extendable tray table. Above the seat a breathing hood is secured to the wall, and next to the seat we have the so-called OMT, or Onboard Maintenance Terminal. It is used for a multitude of maintenance operations and data. Even further to the right we have a full closet with coat and hat hangers. It has its own light switch and a net to secure any baggage from moving during flight. Here we have a small locker and the landing gear pins, which are stored right here in the cockpit. These are the Airbus Atlantic FAR 25 seats found exclusively on the A350. The curved backside includes a life vest, and the seat can be electrically moved using these switches. Now, let's take a look back and take in the full view of the cockpit, comparing it with the last progress update. The frames around the windows have received a major rework, improving their detail and accuracy, but they are far from finished and will require more tweaking and some details. So what is now left to do in the cockpit? Well, apart from countless minor or major tweaks in all areas, the biggest construction site for now will be the roof of the cockpit and the heads-up display. With all that, let's walk out of the cockpit and into our all-new cabin.
Nice to meet you everyone. My name is Benz, and I make aircraft interior visualizations for major airlines and the seat manufacturers. I became part of the DFD team just recently at the beginning of this year. We hold the belief that the interior of the aircraft adds a new level of immersion to the simulator. You can walk out of the cockpit to the cabin, or just switch to a seat view and look at the window as a passenger while enjoying a cold drink. The A350 usually has 3 or 4 types of seats: economy, premium economy, business class, and sometimes first class depending on the airline. Currently, we have finished a 3D model for the economy and the business class seats. Both of them are based on real-life airline seats, and we even used CAD data for some parts. This is the economy class. It has a 3-3-3 seat configuration, which provides enough space for the passengers on longer flights. And this is the business class. Great comfort with a clean and modern design. The 1-to-1 configuration provides a great amount of space, even better than a few first-class layouts. Since this is a large aircraft with hundreds of seats, we paid a lot of attention to optimizing these models to keep solid performance. Please be aware that this is a work in progress and it might look different later in the release version. We plan on modeling premium and first class later on and adding some more interesting details to the cabin. I'm sure you're all gonna love it. Now it is time to exit the aircraft and take a look at the exterior.
Hello, my name is Anil, but otherwise known as MJ, and I'm a member of the 3D modeling team here at Digital Flight Dynamics. I joined the team 11 months ago after watching the second episode of Discovery350. I was amazed by what I saw in regards to the project and decided that I wanted to help create what Digital Flight Dynamics aims to create, a high-fidelity A350. I mainly work on the exterior model of the A350X, which has been completely reworked from the ground up since episode 2. This new model was created on a completely new platform and as what I would call a model template, which will allow us to create other variants of the A350X in the future, and in this case, the -900 variant. When it comes to this aircraft in particular, it has a very unique yet difficult airframe to model, especially when it comes to the nose structure that very recently received a rework due to unsatisfactory surface smoothness and shape. What makes this even more of a challenge to model is the lack of accurate reference material, specifically for the exterior design of the A350. However, we were able to still pull off a very close representation of the actual aircraft, thanks to many pictures, videos, and documents which show important measurements. These measurements allowed us to recreate the exterior model of the Airbus A350 at a 1-to-1 scale. Taking a look at what is also a big part of the exterior, the landing gear. Specifically for this update, the nose landing gear, or short NLG, it has received a full rework, adding a much higher level of detail and improving accuracy overall. Next up is a close-up look at the beautiful nose shape of the A350 with a bit of reflection to show off the smoothness and curve of the nose structure. This is another angle of the nose area with an array of thin light reflections from the fuselage, showing even more of the curvature. In addition to the close-up nose section, here you can see more of those thin light reflections showing the smoothness of the surface structure, along with the cockpit windows that I can confidently say are very accurate to that of the real aircraft. In addition to the windows, included is the famous mask as a placeholder decal, and a view of the highly detailed work-in-progress flight deck. Coming to the tail section here, we can see more surface curvature and shape changes going towards the tail of the model from the reflections. You can also see details present on the cargo door. Here, you can see more of the change in shape on the tail along with the vertical and horizontal stabilizers, all at a 1:1 scale, with the APU exhaust also modeled with its correct shape from reference images. The last thing we'll take a look at on the exterior is the highly popular, powerful, and fuel-efficient Rolls-Royce Trent XWB-97 engine model. It has been modeled using very accurate reference material with an exact nacelle shape, fan blades, and fan case with the correct diameter to surround the engine blades. In addition to that, we have a direct head-on look at the intake where you can see the accurately modeled turbine blades. The exterior model level of accuracy is emphasized because of the confidence, hard work, and determination from the digital flight dynamics modeling team's input. Over the past few months, we have learned a lot about the design of the Airbus A350-1000, and a lot of it is quite interesting. We will of course showcase more in future episodes, and we are highly excited to show you additional progress in the future.
Welcome everyone to the new and improved avionics in the simulator. My name is Mike, and I'm a part of the avionics team. Today, I'll be talking about the progress we've made on the Electronic Centralized Aircraft Monitor, or more commonly known as the ECAM on Airbus systems. The ECAM is a crucial interface that is used to monitor the status of the engines and various aircraft systems. In this update, we will be focusing on the SD, or system display, which can be seen here. Within each page of the system display, we have carefully crafted accurate representations for every aspect of each page. Just like other aircraft, these pages can be dynamically changed based on the status of the aircraft or by manually switching pages. We're first going to start with the engine page on the system display. There are two sides to this page representing the data for each engine. This data includes engine fuel flow, N2 and N3 rotational speeds, oil quantity, temperature and pressure, and engine vibrations. Near the bottom of this page, there's also data for engine start and ignition, including start valves and inlet pressure. To demonstrate the functionality of this page, we can do a quick engine start. As you can see, the attention getting box appears on the engine that is currently being started, and the starter valve opens. Note that this is using the default engine model in the simulator, so not all values are accurate to the engine start on the real A350. Now that engine 1 has been started, the starter valve closes and the attention getting box disappears. Then the same sequence starts for engine 2. Moving on to the door page. This displays the status for all doors in the aircraft, as well as other miscellaneous data such as crew oxygen, cabin vertical speed, and rain repellent fluid levels. The cabin vertical speed is not shown right now, as it is only displayed when the plane is in the air. On the left side, you can see this top view outline of the aircraft showing the status of all the doors. Since I'm on the runway, all indications are outlined in green, meaning that the doors are all closed and locked. The passenger doors also have this slide indication next to them, meaning that the slides are armed in the case of an emergency. Now for the wheel SD page. This page displays the status of the landing gear doors, wheels, and brakes. The brake pressure for the two main landing gears can be seen at the top right. If I disengage the parking brake, you can see that the pressure goes down to 0 on both sides. If I use the toe brakes, the pressure corresponds to the percentage of braking. There's not much else to show on this page right now, so let's move on to the fuel page. As you can probably tell, the fuel page displays data about the fuel usage and the fuel in all of the plane's tanks. As of right now, fuel usage calculations still need to be implemented, so those values are at 0. Toward the middle here, you can see the 3 fuel tanks. Each tank has 2 fuel pumps, which are represented by these squares. The fuel quantity in each tank is also displayed, as well as the temperatures inside the wing tanks. Above the center tank, you can see 2 cross-feed valves to allow for fuel transfer. They're currently closed, but if opened, there are lines to indicate where the fuel is flowing. Lastly, there's a fuel flow indication on the bottom left, which displays the combined fuel flow of both engines. The next pages are electric AC and DC pages. The electrical system was already shown in episode 1 of Discover350, so we won't be showing it in this update. Next is the hydraulic SD page. This displays information about hydraulic fluid levels, temperature, pressure, and the statuses of different pumps and valves. As you can see, there are 2 sides to this page, one for each engine. At the top of each side, the hydraulic pressure is shown for the green and yellow reservoirs. Right now, they're currently at 5100 psi, which is pretty standard for normal operations. The green square indications are called EDPs, or engine-driven pumps, and are crucial for hydraulic system operation. The green circular indications are fire shutoff valves, which are closed when there's a fire, overheat, or a fault. Finally, at the bottom of each side, the fluid levels of each reservoir are shown. The flight controls page displays the deflection of the control surfaces such as the rudder, elevators, ailerons, and spoilers. It also displays trim angles, the status of flight control computers, and hydraulic actuators. Right now, all control surfaces are in their neutral position. The rudder trim and deflection is shown at the top with elevators and the pitch trim just below that. The ailerons are shown near the bottom at the ends of the wing graphic. If I move the rudder, elevators, and ailerons, you can see that the elements change accordingly. Also, if I change the trim levels, the values will react accordingly as shown. At the top left under the page title, you'll notice that this page can display more data. We can enable this by pressing the More button on the ECP. Now, as you can see, more information is displayed, such as the status of various computers and all the hydraulic actuators for all the control surfaces. The APU SD page provides information about, you guessed it, the APU. The area on the top left shows the APU generator load, frequency, and voltage when active. Bleed air pressure can be seen on the top right, as well as the status of the bleed air valve. Towards the middle, you can see how much fuel the APU has used so far. The 2 gauges to the bottom left show the N1 and EGT, which are both currently at 0, as we don't have a fully functional APU simulation as of yet. There's not much else to show on this page at the moment, so let's just move on to the bleed air page. The bleed page shows detailed information about the bleed air from the engines and basic flows for the APU and ram air turbine when necessary. The boxes present at the top are the packs displaying outlet temperature and compressor outlet temperature. The gauge you see indicates the airflow through the pack valve. Coming down the middle, there are 2 more boxes which represent the pre-coolers. Pre-cooler outlet pressure and temperature is indicated here. Lastly, at the bottom, you can see that there are 2 bleed air valves per engine, an intermediate pressure valve, and a high pressure valve. Next up, we have the air conditioning page. At the top of the white aircraft graphic are the temperature readings for the cockpit and the cabin. Near the bottom, there are the temperature readings for the two cargo compartments, as well as the isolation valve indications, which are all currently open. Below the aircraft graphic, on the left and right sides, there are two hot air valves. Since both valves are open, you can see the flow lines indicating where the air is going. If you trace these lines, you'll see that the air is currently flowing to the forward cargo compartment, cockpit, and cabin. Air is also supplied from the packs, which are currently supplied with bleed air from the engine. Last but not least, we have the cabin pressure system display page. This displays information such as differential pressure, cabin altitude, cabin vertical speed, landing elevation, statuses of outflow valves, and more. Pressure, altitude, and vertical speed are all 0 at the moment since the aircraft is on the ground. Cabin altitude and vertical speed have two modes, automatic and manual mode. In normal operations, they're typically both set to automatic. If necessary, however, the flight crew can switch to manual control. So, that's everything we have to show you today on the eCam. So now we'll move on to the next display showcase, the MFD.
Hi everyone, I'm Dynamic and I'm the lead avionics developer here at DFD. For the past several months, we've been working on a fully custom MFD, also known as the multifunction display. It consists of things like the FMS, ATC communications, checklists, and more. Today, we'll be focusing on the FMS, so I'll be showing some of the FMS pages that we've completed so far. Before moving on to that, however, please note that none of the FMS is actually functional for creating flight plans as of yet. We are waiting on FMS V2 from fly-by-wire simulations, which will be used on their A380X and of course our A350X. Alright, so this is our brand new MFD. The large drop-downs you see lined up at the top represent the different categories of pages available on the FMS. Since of course the first officer's side is separate, I can open a different page there while retaining the current page on the captain's side, like so. On the captain's side, the initialization page is shown, where you can initialize the flight plan. I can input a different value for the flight number here, such as DFD A350. As you can see, the flight number display at the top right reacts accordingly. I can also input origin and arrival destination. In the middle, I can input the crew's flight level, cost index, and I can change the FMS speed mode using this drop-down. The lower part of the page consists of buttons that allow for easy access to other useful pages. If I click on the IRS button here, the FMS will navigate to the IRS position page. Here you can see my current GNSS position as well as the status of the 3 inertial reference systems. Now I'll navigate to the position monitor page. The basic idea of this page is that it allows you to monitor position data of the GNSS and IRS and more. The position GNSS page here provides detailed information about both GNSS systems, including coordinates, number of satellites, position accuracy, track, UTC time, altitude, and ground speed. At the top, there's an option list where you can select or deselect the use of GPS sensors to calculate the GNSS position of the aircraft. It is set to selected by default. The last thing we'll show on the MFD today is the position time page. Now, there's a lot going on here, so let's go through it by sections. At the top, it displays the UTC time and the current date in the flight simulator. There's also an option list here where I can choose to manually or automatically set the aircraft time reference, but I'll leave it to auto for now. The last thing in this section is a drop-down for the permanent data setup. The permanent data can be seen at the very bottom of the eCam here. Using the drop-down, you can choose between showing flight time, block time, the current date, or just the UTC time. The next section displays both your block time and flight time. You can modify them using these buttons or just reset both to 0. Next up, we have the time markers. These aren't actually features which are implemented yet, but this is the interface where you can control them. There are 3 time markers which can be set. For each one, you can set either the UTC time you want it to go off, or you can set the remaining time until it goes off. Then, the FMS will automatically fill the other field. In the text entry field, you can enter text to identify the time marker. Lastly, to the very right, there's a checkbox where you can choose to trigger the time marker audio indicator when the marker is reached. This last section at the bottom allows you to calculate the local time at 2 different airports, your destination airport and any other airport. All you have to do is input the ICAO code and the UTC time difference. I'll do JFK Airport, which is 4 hours behind UTC. And as you can see, it now displays the local time there, which can be referred to at any time. Alright, so that's all we will show on the MFD today, and now we can move on to the final part of this update, the OIS.
Hi everyone, I'm Viper. I'm an avionics developer here at DFD. Over the past few months, we've been reworking the OIS to improve accuracy and functionality. The OIS, known as the Onboard Information System on the A350, hosts information throughout the flight that the pilots can use, such as airport charts, performance calculations, and much more. Due to the different variations of the OIS that different airlines have, we've settled on a universal style which closely resembles the default program. Today, I'll be showcasing our work in progress takeoff performance calculation. Right now, we're in the flight operations menu, so let's navigate to the takeoff performance page. As you can see, the parameters for this calculation have already been input. Also, you may notice on the right side that most values are labelled inoperative. The calculation is still very rough and doesn't have full functionality yet, so it will continue to be refined and added upon. Alright, so all I have to do now is click compute to initiate the calculation. It takes around 5 seconds, just how it does in the real OIS. Now that the calculation is complete, the flex temperature, V1, VR, and V2 speeds are all shown. Please note that these values are not 100% accurate to the real OIS, so as I said before, the formulas will continue to be refined.
Alright then, that's all we wanted to show for now. I know it's been a long wait since the last update, so I really hope you enjoyed this new episode. Feel free to join our Discord server if you have any questions or just want to chat with other members. If you're interested in working with us to develop the A350X, you can fill out the application form linked below. And if you are a pilot, engineer, mechanic, or work with A350s in any other way, please contact us on Discord. Thank you all for watching, and we hope to bring you more frequent updates very soon.